Howdy y'all, welcome back to Lives. I think it's time we play a little 7 Days to Die. So I got quite a bit of work done on the base. I am struggling to put together this video today. I just can't seem to not go off on tangents with what I want to talk about. And oh man, I made so much paint. So much paint. So I got out some paint to paint my boxes so I would have an easier time of knowing where things go. I got my chemistry bench down. I put some torches in to give me a little bit of light here at night. I guess I want to get some actual lights in eventually here. Um, got a new segment here for some more garden. Got some of that planted. I need to get back out there and get some more stone and stuff. So I guess I'm gonna go head out now to do that. It's almost morning, so I think we should be okay. Oop, I say that and then I just tried to fling myself to death off the edge here. That is less okay. See those lights right there? I don't even know what's in that building next to me. I guess I've been in that building, right? I take it back. I know what's in that building. I've been in there. I cleared it out. I broke the stairs. Where's my headlamp here? Alright. Let us go to one of these broke down buildings to get some stone right here. There we go. Stone. I need a lot of it. And I'm hoping that with my sexual Tyrannosaurus perk that it'll be a little easier to acquire than it's been. I need the sand too, so it all works out. So what I want to talk about was our game of D&D last night. So my one player, he DMs the games on the opposite week for me, and I've been playing D&D with him a long time, and sometimes he does stuff repeatedly that just drive me crazy. And so last night, as a DM, I'm not as affected by what he does. Like I'm running the game. He makes his choices. I've got to react to his choices. That kind of thing. That's not my issue here. Um, my issue is his desire for his character to never be in combat. It doesn't matter what kind of character he has. It doesn't really seem to matter what kind of game we play. If combat is involved, he tries to place his character in a position where he won't be attacked, someone else will be attacked. And the problem is that he doesn't care what the consequences are to other people. So I wanted to give a couple of examples before I tell the story from last night. And this is where I run into the issue because I go off on these really big tangents. Now, I've told this story a couple of times, so I'm going to give a briefer version here of it. But basically, a couple of years ago, it may be longer than that at this point. I don't know. It's probably been at least 4 or 5 years since it started. But I was in a campaign. We were being a guy who doesn't play D&D with us anymore was running the campaign, and so I had a fighter guy. The other guy who I'm telling the story about, he's playing a wizard, and then there's a ranger guy, a bard guy, and a druid guy. So we get these portal stones that are being used to bring evil gods back. Now, the trick to these portal stones is that they take a lot of power to activate, and every group is trying to activate a different god, and so they need a different stone to do it. You can't use the stone to Loth's prison to resurrect a different god, right? makes sense. Um, and so every group that we come across is unique. Uh, they are not trying to raise the same god, so each group has got its own stone. Now, I don't know if there's some reasoning behind, like, if they get all the gods raised, that it will unleash something bigger. I don't know if that was in the plans because our game broke up. And but at the time, we had these portal stones, and so we were confronting yet another group who had one of these portal stones, and we had tried to sneak in, and it didn't work, and we tripped an alarm, and a bunch of people showed up. The person we were after, turns out they had a couple of other wizard types with them as well. And but they also had these elite soldiers with them and some regular soldiers. And so we're on a second floor balcony, landing, overlooking this big stairway down to the first floor. And and so they're all below us. And so the wizard, he says, in his mind, two things are going on in his mind. Well, three things probably. One, he's the most important character. Period. Nobody's else story matters. Um, his character is the most important. Two, uh, all the magic items belong to him. Period. And he is upset that I have one of these portal stones, and he thinks he should have all the portal stones. Um, and three, uh, he doesn't want his character to ever be hurt, ever, for any reason, ever. And so he decides, he tells me that the casters are more important than the soldiers. And I'm like, but we got all these soldiers in front of us. I mean, he's like, yeah, we can deal with the soldiers. They're all there on the stairway, but we got to get to those casters, and those soldiers are stopping us from getting to the casters. And so we're on the second floor balcony, and so I can jump pretty far with my character because of how strong he is. And so I asked the DM, like, would I be able to? I would like to jump from the second story to the floor below, but I would like to try and leap over as many of the soldiers as I can and get as close to the wizards in the back. Now, it wouldn't work if we were all on the same floor, but they were on the floor below. And so I thought that I could probably run and jump and leap over top of the heads of the soldiers and, land behind them, or at least land closer to the casters than where I started. And so he agrees. And so I jump. I rolled really good on whatever it is he wanted me to roll. And so I landed right next to the casters, and then I attacked. And in my head, I'm thinking, all right, so that means that the wizard will use his ability to throw a fireball or something at all the soldiers, taking them out, right? Because he's basically the only one that can do it. So it gets to his turn. I am in the thick of it. There's no way I'm going to survive this. There's just too many guys. And we already know these elite soldiers hit really hard. And so the only way I'm surviving this is if he does some big AoE damage to kill or injure as many of the bad guys as possible. And our ranger doesn't really have a lot of hit multiple people abilities. Our druid does, so I thought maybe between the wizard and the druid they could take out most of these orc guards. leaving a couple beating on me, but also getting everybody access to the casters who I've jumped down and am now face to face with. We also have the Bard. The Bard also has some AoE abilities, and so it'd be great. They'll wipe out all the stuff on the stairway, and I will try to stop the wizards from doing anything. So, what does he do? He runs out. He says, I've got the magic items you need. And then he teleports away. Because in his mind, they only care about him. And somehow he missed the fact that none of the groups have been sharing portal stones. And each group has its own portal stone. Because why would you try to raise a different god than the one that you were after? And so he thought that him having 2 portal stones makes him the most important person. Well, no, I'm pretty sure he thought he was the most important person before he had the portal stones. But he had 2 of the 3 portal stones that we had on him, and he thought that that would be bait for people who have no reason or even know what he's talking about, because he didn't tell them that he had portal stones. He just said he had the magic items they want. And then they're like, okay, well, we don't want any magic items. We have our magic items. We are raising the evil god. And so he teleported away and left us there to die. No joke. Our wizard, rather than attacking all the guys in front of us, teleported outside the building, and then because we're using a homebrew spell that allows you to cast 2 major spells in the same turn, used its bonus action to teleport outside the building, and then used an action to use a different teleport spell to teleport off of a cliff. He had already placed... and then on his next turn, before he hit the bottom, because we were so high up, he cast Featherfall and just floated away and was miles away while the rest of us fought for our lives. In fact, my guy died twice, I believe, and they had to resurrect him twice during combat. And we finally had to run away. Our druid had a 1-use artifact that he had gotten, and he used it to summon this giant bird who smashed through the skylight, and we climbed aboard the giant bird, and it barely flew us out of the building and across town where we could hide. Yeah, so he ran away and left us. I'll never forget that, because I don't think I've ever been betrayed like that before. I mean, I've been betrayed in a game by people I'm playing with. Bad. But I don't think any of them have left me as dumbfounded as whatever plan he concocted in his head, that he thought that all the bad guys would just chase him and leave the rest of us there to twiddle our thumbs, because he decided that after telling us to rush in and get the casters, that there was too many of them for us to fight, and that his guy might take damage if he didn't run away. So, story 2. Story 2. So we're playing in a different campaign, and this time he's playing a monk. So in D&D, a monk is like a kung fu fighter kind of thing, right? Martial artist. And they fight with martial arts, aka they get up and punch people. So what does he do? He takes a variant human, which allows him to have a feat to start with, and he gives his monk the feat of maneuverability. So while he took the get in your face and fight monk, he didn't actually want to get in their face and fight. He took the monk because it had a lot of movement speed and he could run away. Not joking, he created a character specifically for how well it could run away. Because a monk gets extra movement as they go up levels, and the maneuverability feat, something like that, allows you to run away without being attacked if you attack. And so every turn, what would happen is he would use his extra movement to run into the room we were fighting, attack a guy, and if there was another guy close enough, attack that guy, and then run out of the room so that he couldn't get attacked. Because they would attack us instead of him. No joke. I'm just like, seriously, man. So I had to re, I had to multi-class my character I was playing because we needed someone who would get face to face with the bad guys and hold them in place while our ranged people attacked with range. Because the monk, who was the face to face fighter, wouldn't even stay in the same room as the bad guys. Yeah. So that was crazy. So then we get to last night. Now I am DMing the game that we played last night, so it is the Demon Plague game that I am DMing. That I've been talking about. Every other week we swap which game we're playing, and so last night was my game. And so they had gotten to this fort that had been taken over by a goblinoid group, hobgoblins, goblins, that kind of thing. And so they were sent to try and rescue survivors or get supplies because of the nature of the campaign. Right, comet struck the Earth. The whole valley is basically destroyed. There's only one town left because it was on a hill. This fort is also on a hill, but it's been taken over by the goblins, and survivors have escaped from the goblin attacks and are like they're selling people or eating them or something, and so they get there, and I do this thing where I roll for weather, which is it's in one of the books. I took it from one of the official books. I thought it was a cool idea to roll for weather so that it would change, because a lot of times you play the game and you don't know what the weather's going to be like or anything like that, and so I I I like the way that works, and so I roll several days of weather so I can describe how the weather's changing during the day. And so they got blizzard. Now blizzard is like the worst thing that can happen in the current time of year they're in, and so they can barely see. But they're trying to sneak into this fort. And so I'm like, all right. So normally you can see, however far a person can see in the daytime. But right now the blizzard has cut how far you can see down to about 30 feet. If you're in a dark cave, it's like torch length. Torch will light up for about 30 feet. If you have dark vision, you can see for about 60 feet. So this is like half of what they normally see when they go to fight in a dungeon while they're on the surface. And because the dungeon is the top part, and then the part, there's like a second floor that's underground. And so they go around the outside of the fort, and it's nothing but cliffs and tall walls that they can't see the top of. And so they decide that, I mean, you could see the top of them if it wasn't a blizzard. The blizzard has reduced their sight so they can't see the top of the 20-foot walls from the walls are 20 feet tall, and they're at the bottom of a 20-foot tall cliff. So they can see up to about the middle of the wall. And so they decide that I described that the rocks are covered in ice and snow from the blizzard. It's slippery. I thought maybe they would try, and it would just be a little more difficult for them to climb up the outside, and so they thought they would do that, and then they decided not to do that, and so they decided they were going to go up the main ramp, and so they had a little bit of advantage because the bad guys who are in the towers can't see more than, like the courtyard at the base of the towers. The downside is that they have to cross through that courtyard to get into the building. And so they get into the fight. There's two guys that can see them. And I tell them they have to basically get right underneath the tower, or else the wind and ice and snow are going to make their ranged attacks difficult. I'm doing the same thing for the bad guys, so it's not a one-way street. The bad guys also have to roll with disadvantage because of what has happened. So everybody's rolling with disadvantage. And so weird. What did I do with all my wood? There it is. And so the dude, he's playing a rogue and an artificer this time around, and so his artificer immediately tries to give up his weapon so that he doesn't have to fight. This is their first real fight, by the way. They have been in the first town every session until now. They have fought a couple times in town, but this is their first dungeon, and he immediately gives up his weapon to another guy. And I'm like, weird. Why? Like, what is the paladin who carries a sword and shield gonna do with your crossbow? Why aren't you just using your crossbow? I don't understand. And so he opts to give that up, and then he oh right, I need stone on me as well here. So he gives that up, and then his rogue attacks a little bit, and then he's like, so I think we should run. And the other guy is like, what do you mean we should run? Like, we came here specifically to attack this tower. What do you mean we should run? And he's like, yeah, I don't like that we're being attacked from the tops of these towers. I think we should run away and regroup and come at this a different day. And the dude is like, we came here specifically for this, though. Like, I think we should just charge in and fight. That's why we're here. And he's like, well, I think my guy doesn't want to be here, and having those guys on the tower is freaking him out, and they're hard to attack right now. And the guy's like, yeah, but nobody knows we're here at this second. Well, after that, of course, it becomes the goblin's turn, and one of the goblins starts raising an alarm, as he's supposed to do according to the book. And so he's like, well, now they know we're here. We definitely have to run away. And the dude is like, how are we ever going to get into this place without fighting? Of course they're going to put up an alarm. I mean, that's what we're here to do, is to fight these guys. And I was just like laughing in my head, because this is what he does. He always tries to run away. When we fight his bad guys, they always try to run away. And I'm just like, oh, I hate it when they run away. Like, why is he always running away? Why does this rogue not want to try? The first thing out of his mouth is, can I hide? I'm like, no, you can't hide. How are you going to hide in the middle of an empty courtyard? Like, where do you think you're going to hide behind? I don't know, but I thought that you could just hide in plain sight. I'm like, no, that you never can hide in plain sight. I mean, you could use a spell, I guess, to hide if you had it, but you don't got it. So, what is going through your head that makes you think that you're standing in the middle of a courtyard being looked at by two guys that you can just go, I vanish? My eyes, if I don't move, if I'm very still, then I'm invisible. All right? No, it doesn't work that way. Oh, I thought because I chose a half elf for my character, I thought that he might be an elf. I thought that elves could just hide when they wanted to. I'm like, no, that's not a thing. Like, he's like, well, I thought there was a thing where they could like hide while they're out in the open. I'm like, well, I think like the wood elves can hide as long as there's like forest or tall grass, neither of which you're in, and you're not a wood elf. Oh, right, right. Well, I mean, I guess my guy just run away. Why isn't your guy attack? Why is that not an option when you came here to attack? I don't get it. But yeah, it was super funny to me because every campaign I've ever played in, that's what he does. He tries to run away. Every time he runs bad guys, they try to run away. Uh, I am not saying be a fighter in real life or anything, um, but it's funny to me that his guy always trying to run away. I, I don't know what I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to game out in my head what this fort is gonna look like after they run away, because he like in his mind, once the things are dead, then there's nothing there. Oh, look at that dog down there, slinking toward my base, toward my hole. Uh, I know in the campaign that he runs, um, he does this thing where we don't ever run into bad guys after we've cleaned out a section, and I hate it. Like, it's dumb. Not only do we not get to uh, interact with a more living dungeon, um, but we also like can't fast travel. So I don't know why he's got it both ways. Uh, we can't fast travel when we want to, but he will often just be like, "All right, so I'll just say you get back to the surface, fine." Um, but then when we're like, "We'll just travel back to the surface," and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to roll a bunch to see if you can make it back through all those floors." We've never been attacked going back through the floors, and so it's I don't know. It's bizarreness. It is definitely bizarreness. But his bad guys always run away too. It it's super frustrating just to always be chasing. That's what we should name our group. Always be chasing, because we always be chasing his bad guys. Um, it happened. It happened this week too. This last week when we played, we we attacked these guys, and he talks about how they're very aggressive and always attack. And then as soon as we get in a fight, he's like, "Oh, this guy's gonna try and run away. He can move faster than you in the water, so he's gonna try to run away." Uh, that was the story last time, last week, where um, he suddenly broke down on how math works, um, and argued that 25 plus 25 divided by 2 does not equal 25. Because our rogue, we're in deep water, so we move at half our normal speed. Our rogue can use his bonus action to dash, so he moves and dashes at half speed, which would be 12, technically 12 and a half um, feet, which is 5, it's 2.5 squares. Um, so he probably could have wheeled that into 6 squares. But I was like, yeah, so he moves and dashes, that's 50 feet, but we're in the deep water, so that divided by 2 means he gets to move his normal 25 feet for his move and dash. That's math. And he's like, no. I'm like, what do you mean, no? He's like, well, it's deep water, so he only moves half that. I'm like, but he's moving and dashing, so that's moving twice. If he moves twice, then that would mean he would move his normal 25 feet that he can move, um, which would be half speed. And he's like, no, he only gets to move. He only gets to move 3 squares. I'm like, no, he gets to move 5 squares because he's moving 50 at a speed of 50, but divided by half for the deep water, which gives him a speed of 25. Because he's a halfling, so he moves slower. Um, yeah, it was crazy. Because he wanted his guy to run away, and he hates it when we chase his guys for running away, and we're always chasing down his guys and killing them. Because that's what we do. Because that's what you do in the game. Uh, uh, yeah, they. I also give XP for things like uh, discovering places or completing quests or things like that. And he only gives XP for fighting. So not only do we only get XP for fighting when he DMs, but he also makes all the bad guys try to run away. So of course we have to chase them down because we need their XP. And since you don't grant XP for anything, it literally says in the book, the one floor we were on, that if you don't fight the creatures, you should get the same amount of XP for the floor as if you had fought the creatures. And we didn't fight any of the creatures except for the ones that attacked us. And he only gave us the XP for the ones that we killed and would not give us the XP for the ones that didn't attack us. That's not how I do in my games. In my games, if you don't kill it, you don't get the XP. But yeah, so they made it to level 3 last night, which is pretty cool. Uh, and they managed to clear most of the first floor of the fort. Yeah, they went in. They made it through the goblins. Finally, they confronted the leader of the Barrel Harb goblins, and he was a coward. It said right in the book he was a coward. That if the bodyguard he's with dies, he will immediately drop his weapon and beg for his life. And so he starts begging for his. Whoa, dang it! I don't know what just happened there. I totally picked up regular cement. Don't know what I thought I was doing. And then I just smashed a block for no reason. This is what I wanted to pick up, not the other. And yeah, so they confronted him. They asked a few questions, and then this also made me laugh. Uh, now it's not like I haven't been giving them information about what's going on, and they're aware of some of the different groups at play, and they were given some story on how the goblins came to be where they're at. And so, I mean, they have enough information to ask questions, and they ask a couple of basic questions from the guy, and then he's like, "All right, I'm done." And I'm like, "What? Like, you have him for questioning? You can ask him anything." "Yeah, I'm good. I think we've asked him everything that he knows." And I'm like, "Okay." And so the other guy had a couple of other questions, and and then he's like, "So what are we going to do with him?" And the other guy's like, "Well, we were hired to kill him and bring back his head, so we're going to kill him and bring back his head." And he's like, "Well, I mean, I don't know if we got all the information out of him yet." I'm like, "Well, you can keep asking. He's still sitting here." And he's like, "Well, let's just say we asked him the questions we needed to ask him. What information is he going to have that we still need?" And I thought he was talking to the other guy. And he's like, "No, no, you tell me what information does he have that we need to know before we kill him?" I'm like, "Well, it don't work that way. You're interrogating him. You have to ask the questions. I'm not just going to tell you everything he knows. You get what you learn from him, not what I know he knows. That's not how this works." um, and yeah, and so he decided that he didn't want to ask any more questions, and so the other guy killed him. And then as soon as he's dead, he's like, "Man, we should have asked him about this. We should have asked him about that. He probably knew about this other stuff." And I'm like, "He might have. You'll never know now." Uh, like I don't like they know about these other bandits called the Skull Bandits. I told them that he was in contact with them, and they never asked about the Skull Bandits. I told them while we were there that he had a map showing different places around the devastated wasteland. They never asked him about the map. They just completely ignored that I even said that there was a marked map hanging on the wall with different locations and paths marked. Like, you're seriously not gonna talk about the map? uh, yeah. So it was crazy. I was very surprised at how little they asked before they killed him. And yep, and then they rescued the prisoners, and then they fought an ice basilisk, which is a fairly tough fight for them, but it was supposed to be. It was level 2, they're level 2. Um, and the only thing that's left now is on the floor they're on is the dragon baby, a dragon wormling, and they've got to fight that or trick it into letting them go deeper into the dungeon. And so they haven't done that yet. So in 2 weeks, that's where they'll pick up is fighting said dragon. And then they'll go to the next floor. Like, like they asked him about who was still there. I gave them the name of one of the people they're supposed to be looking for, and they didn't even bat an eye. Like I don't think they looked at their notes. Like they have quest notes for what they're supposed to be doing here. They're like, "Where are the tents?" And I'm like, "There are no tents here. What are you talking about?" That woman, she told us we had to bring back the tents. I'm like, "That woman told you that the Skull Bandits have the tents. These are the Barrel Harb Goblins. Those are different groups." "But I thought the tents were supposed to be here. Have you seen Skull Bandits?" "Well, no." "Well, who has the tents?" "The Skull Bandits." "I'm pretty sure she said they'd be at this fort." I'm pretty sure that she said they would be with the Skull Bandits. Your notes say that they're with the Skull Bandits. My notes say they're with the Skull Bandits. These aren't the Skull Bandits. They're not at this fort. But yeah, I don't know. I'm assuming that they're not going to talk to the woman who they were told to watch out for because they didn't read their notes. They didn't recognize her name when I told it to them. Yeah, it's funny. Um, I mean, we'll see if they even stay now that they've rescued the prisoners. They might run away, since that's all the guy wants to do is run away. All right, with that, be better in the small things, lean to the light. I will talk to you later.